What's cracking? Central region. This is Bert Wicks coming at you at a computer screen near you, in front of your face, more than likely. Happy Friday. I'm going to be having the honor and the privilege of talking to you guys about how to sell more ultimates and more signatures. So, this is probably one of my favorite things to talk about. I've had the luxury and the privilege of learning from some of the best in this business. And this has been a focus of mine over the last year or two on selling bigger sets and selling more to more customers. Because in my opinion, that means that the Cutco customer is going to have a better experience when they have more. So I'm going to give a lot of credit where credit's due before I even start, from the Seth Kinzers of the world, the Kareem El-Tawanzis, and the Brandon Browns and the Josh Mullers of the world, who have instilled in me the ability and the intentionality, excuse me, of selling bigger to each customer. So let's jump right in. So before we start and before we jump into any of the technical stuff, I want to ask you a couple questions about your demo. So when you go into a demo, what is your expectation going into a demo? Is your expectation going into a demo of like, man, I sure hope they buy something today. I hope I sell a knife. Or is it even, I hope they buy a homemaker from me? So my first challenge for you guys is to shift your thinking. When you run into customers that already own Cutco, what sets do you usually find that the most satisfied customers have with Cutco? I would challenge, and kind of from my experience, the people that are the biggest Cutco fanatics are the people that have ultimates and signatures. So there is a little handout that you guys might have called the Sets for Life handout. And it's the set handout that has the 3 sets on it. So if you're doing in-person appointments, if you're doing service calls, it's a great thing to print out. You can buy it on Vector Connect. Just ask your manager. It's just called the Sets for Life handout. If you're doing virtuals, you can put this onto your, you can just take a picture of it and just upload it onto a PowerPoint. So for simplicity's sake, this is what it looks like. So I have this, I have literally 2 of them whenever I'm doing any type of appointment. So basically this is what it looks like. Blah, blah. So the item number on this bad boy, if you want to order one, is the L155. L155. So it's the Cutco Kitchen handout technically, but this little Sets for Life thing is fantastic. It's a really good thing to be able to just have out, print out, and have in front of your customers to kind of give them a visual of the sets that we're selling. So first things first, we're going to chat about a few things today. So we're going to first talk about creating want within a presentation for the bigger sets. We're also going to talk about how to properly price position the bigger sets like the Ultimate and the Signature. And then we're also going to talk about the pieces that actually sell the Ultimate and the Signature set. Okay, so for some of you guys, you might not even know the pieces that are in the Ultimate and Signature set. So I'm here to, if you already know about it, I'm going to give you a couple of extra names and uses that you can use to get your customers excited about the pieces that are within the bigger sets. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, guys, is creating want. Okay, I want to give you guys a quick analogy to give you guys some perspective on how people buy things. So I want you to imagine really quick, if you have an iPhone or an Android, okay, I want you to think about that phone that you own right now, or a smartphone in general, okay? Now I want you to think about everything that you know about it, right? All of the gifts, all the gadgets, all the crazy things that it does, okay? And I want you to do your best to imagine that you don't know any of that. So I want you to imagine that your phone, right, is just a little piece of plastic with a glass screen on it. But you don't know anything, you don't know any of the capabilities that this phone has, okay? So I want you to imagine walking into an iPhone store. You know nothing about the iPhone. Or you're walking into an Android store, you're walking in to just buy a phone. You know nothing about it. You walk up to the salesperson, and the salesperson, you're looking at some phones, you haven't even turned one on yet. And you point at one of those and they say, hey, how much is that, Mr. and Mrs. Salesperson? With the iPhone, by the way, guys, if you buy the new one right now, the biggest one that they've got, with all of this storage space you could ever dream of, it's $14.99. So $1,500. That's not even with Apple Care. So I want you to imagine really quick walking in to a store, not knowing anything about a product, and a person says that's $1,600 or $1,500 for a piece of plastic with a glass case. What would you probably say to the salesperson? You'd be like, are you out of your mind trying to sell me that? Are you nuts? Why the hell would I ever buy something that's a piece of plastic with a glassable screen on it? Okay? So I want you to guys imagine now a person that's you're doing a demo for, and you show an Ultimate, right? You show them a price of the Ultimate, and it's $3,049 with steak knives, and they don't know anything that comes in the set. What do you think you're usually going to hear? Are you nuts? Why would you spend $3,000 on a set of knives? Mr. Like little rep, baby rep, I have no idea why I would spend that much money on a set of knives. I have no idea why I would spend that much. And the reason why, guys, is that most of the time, especially newer reps, when they show an Ultimate, they don't actually let the customer know what's inside of it. They don't even get the customer excited about why they would want it. So if you guys fail to create want within a customer before you show them a price for the Cutco product, whether it's a signature or an Ultimate set, you're setting yourself up for failure. So there needs to be an excitement and an urgency on why the bigger sets are the best sets that we make with the most value. Okay? The second thing, how to properly frame the Ultimate. Okay? So it's the set that everybody wants, guys, but it's not the set that everybody can afford. It's a line that I got from Seth Kinzer 2.5 years ago. One of the best lines ever. The Ultimate set, guys, is essentially like having a full tool set or full tool chest on your countertop. Right? If you're getting a ton of objections and seem to not be selling very many Ultimates or signatures, guys, look into your demo. Are you actually pitching the sets, or are you just using them as a backboard to sell more homemakers and hoping that it sticks? Right? With the complete set, it's better to have it and not need it rather than need it and not have it. Right? The crazy sounds crazy, guys. But the complete set, excuse me, is literally the only set that we sell that has more than one paring knife. It's the only set that comes with 2 paring knives. It's the only knife that has a knife that cuts raw meat well, aka the boning knife. Right? I love calling the bigger set. I get this from Mike Dowd all the time. He likes to call the complete set the Beast. Right? Or you can use other names for the set, like the Carnivore set. Or this is the Griller and Barbecue set, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Right? This is the prepackaged set, Mrs. Jones, that Cutco sells that you can't customize this. This is just the biggest and the best set that we make. A lot of people call the Hardy Slicer the bad boy, guys. The cleaver is the bad boy of the knife set that Cutco makes. That is the bad boy. If you've never felt a cleaver, do your best to get your hands on one of those bad boys. It is literally a bad boy. It is a beast. You can crack a coconut with the backside of the cleaver, guys, to give you some perspective. I've done it. Right? It's the most heavily discounted set that we sell. Right? It's usually $3,700, $3,679 specifically if you buy everything outright, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. But when you buy it as a set, Cutco discounts it 25% off. So it's over $630 worth of savings. Right? So the big thing is you always want to frame the complete set into like, this is why, this is the biggest, this is the best value. It's a tool set, a full tool chest, for your kitchen countertop, right? Another great line that I love to use when I'm talking about the Ultimate set, guys, right, is just general and sets with Cutco that they make. Is what I love about Cutco is it's super, super high quality, but it's super low maintenance. I'm not a chef, right? But I love that Cutco's high quality and they're really low maintenance. If a customer ever asks you, why would I pick Cutco over like a Wusthof? Or why would I pick Cutco over a set of Hinkles or Shun? The best reasoning that I have for them is we're super, super high quality and super low maintenance, whereas Shun, Wusthof, and Hinkles, they're super high quality as well, but they're also very high maintenance. They're more recommended for a chef because they recommend you hone up the knife every single time that you use it. All right, so I love this line. The set, Mrs. Jones, the complete set was designed for consumers like you in mind that are willing to invest in quality knives, but need something practical, but don't want the maintenance that normally comes with a high quality set of knives. So I'll say that again. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to be able to repeat this 3 or 4 times, but this is the set that was designed for consumers like you and mine that are willing to invest in quality knives, but need something practical, but don't want the maintenance that normally comes with high quality knives. So the great news, Mrs. Jones, is this is usually $3,700 worth of product, but we have it on sale today for $3,049. Now, don't get me wrong. I know Cutco is not cheap, but because of that, and because we understand that it's not a planned expense, here at this event or here because of this contest that I'm in, Cutco has a really cool program that we call reverse layaway. Since no one has a budget for kitchen stuff, we just split the total over 5 months. It's the same thing as cash. The 610, this just comes off your card every 30 days. You're done by September. Or insert 5 months here. Because nobody has a budget for kitchen knives, and we don't want you to have to save up for 6 months to a year just to buy the set, we allow you to split it up over 5 months on the reverse layaway program. So we send you the set right away. The 610 just comes off your card automatically every 30 days. There's no interest, there's no financing, there's no layaway. You literally don't even get a bill. You don't even have to be home for the bill. The 610 just comes off your card every 30 days. You basically get to use Cutco's money for free for 5 months. So unlike with other big lifetime purchases that you're going to eventually have, Mrs. Jones, you don't have to trade this knife set in for like a bigger knife set later. If you think about it, Mrs. Jones, most people, when they get a car, they eventually trade in their car to get another car payment. You will never have another knife payment down the road with Cutco. You'll have them forever. Okay, another great way to frame in your prices, guys, with Cutco is compare that $600 mark to something that they might similarly spend money on besides Cutco, because they're not used to buying Cutco. Right? That's not a normal purchase for people necessarily every single year, every single month. So compared to Costco, compared to an expensive truck payment or an expensive car payment or a small mortgage payment, right? $610 a month, guys, is not a small number, but it's also only 5 months. I can't tell you the amount of people that I have the ability to sell to and the luxury and honor of being able to sell to in the Dakotas, right? Where they have 4-figure truck payments, 4-figure truck payments on like an $80,000 truck. You put freaking 10 grand down, you got 70 grand you're financing. That's like a $1,300 car payment with interest for like 60 months. Think about that. 60 months on a truck. Like they're gonna use the knives more. It's only 5 months, and they're gonna have it way longer than they're gonna have the truck. So you want to create as much want as you can, but you also have to properly frame it in, which is like, hey guys, this is not a small number. I get that, but this is why people want this. It's the best. You're never gonna have to replace your knives. You always have the right tool for the right job. They're dishwasher friendly. They're super high quality, but super low maintenance. You're just checking off the knife box forever. Right? So again, our complete set, guys, is the best set that we sell. It's the one, again, that everybody wants, but they can't necessarily afford, but it's the set that every single person will work towards owning eventually, right? It's your one and done forever set. And the reason why people love it so much is it's exactly like having, again, a full tool chest for your countertop. Again, I always say, like in your garage, technically speaking, you don't necessarily use a hammer, a screwdriver, and a wrench every single day, right? But it's better to, you're gonna need it sometimes. It's better to have it again and need it rather than need it and not have it. It's always better to have it, just in case. Okay? Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the last thing, I'm going to pull this whole thing together, is the actual pieces in the set that are going to help you guys sell more ultimates and more signatures. Okay? So the proper way to actually talk about Cutco, guys, is to talk about these 3 sets with this little guy right here. And the first set that you guys should talk about with every single customer is not the basic homemaker. The homemaker should literally take you a minute to talk about. The set that you should always start with is the biggest and the best set, which is the complete set. Okay? So every single person that I talk to, you guys, it's not like I'm explaining 32 knives or 17 kitchen knives, 2 forks, and a scissors. I'm not talking about all of them. I'm talking about 5 knives in the complete set. I'm going to mention a little bit about the basic. And in the family set, I'm also going to briefly mention a couple of the tools that come in it, but I'm not going to get super, super excited. As you guys can kind of tell, this is more of a message based on selling more ultimates. And if you don't sell more ultimates, you're going to end up selling more signatures because of it, and that's okay, right? Because in my opinion, again, the ultimate's the best that they would make. Okay, so the pieces that you want to get really excited about in the complete set, guys, that you're going to talk about are 5 of them. Okay, you're going to talk about the 4-inch paring knife. You're going to talk about the boning knife. You're going to talk about the salmon knife. You're going to talk about the meat cleaver, and then you're going to talk about the vegetable knife. Okay, those are the 5. I'm going to talk about them in a second, but those are the 5. So again, 4-inch paring knife, boning knife, salmon knife, cleaver, vegetable knife. Okay. Now, in the signature, we're also going to talk about these in a second. The signature you're going to mention, again, these are pretty obvious, which is the cheese knife, the petite santoku, the hearty slicer, and the shears. Okay? Those are the pieces that you're going to talk about. And with the homemaker, guys, when you talk about the homemaker, you should literally take less than a minute to talk about the homemaker. Okay? I know it sounds crazy. And I know you might be like, how the heck are you supposed to sell a homemaker by only selling it in a minute? Right? We're going to get to that. The point is you want to get more people when you do a little 3-set close to pick the ultimate set. So you can start with the bigger set. And if you need to drop down, which newsflash, guys, you're not going to sell an ultimate to every single person. But if you start with an ultimate with more people, you're probably going to sell more of them. You're going to end up selling more signatures. And you're also, because of this, going to sell more homemakers in the process as well. I'll be the first person to tell you, I'm never going to turn down a homemaker, right? But if you don't start higher, it's hard to finish higher, okay? So I'm going to run through this and kind of pull it all together, guys, using some of the framing. This is exactly what it sounds like when I'm selling and kind of pitching customers on the set. So this is before, by the way, I've talked about price comparison, and this is right after I've usually talked about the guarantee. Okay, so let me show you, Mrs. Jones, our most popular sets and some of the deals we've got going on at this event today or during my contest. I'll show you our 3 most popular sets. The first set, Mrs. Jones, is our biggest and our best set. It's called our complete set. So Mrs. Jones, this is the set that everybody wants, but it's not necessarily the set that everybody can afford, but it's something that everybody works towards owning eventually. What I love about this set, Mrs. Jones, is that it's all of our basic tools from our basic set we've been selling for over 70 years, but it also has all of our customer requested pieces as well. So over the years, customers that had Cutco already, they wrote in letters. For example, our paring knife, Mrs. Jones, it is amazing in our basic set. It's just literally always dirty. So we came out in our complete set with an extra paring knife, so you have both, right? A lot of people also in our basic set, Mrs. Jones, again, I don't know if you guys do this once in a while, but if you guys ever trim the fat off chicken or if you ever want a butterfly chicken, the problem is in our basic set, there was really never a tool specifically for design for that because that wasn't necessarily a thing people were doing as much back in the 1940s and 50s when it first came out. So in our complete set, we came out with our boning knife. Our boning knife is fantastic when you want to take the fat off of chicken breast. Kind of looks like a fillet knife, but if you're ever trimming fat off of any type of raw meat, it is amazing. Also, Mrs. Jones, you guys ever once in a while cut through the occasional watermelon, cantaloupe, muskmelon? Oh yeah, I totally do. Have you ever noticed that when you use a big knife, like a big chef knife, you get about halfway and you kind of get stuck, right? It's really kind of a pain in the butt. And then once you've cut it open, it's like, how do you get all of the melon off of the rind? So we found that this knife right here, we call it the thin slicer, aka the salmon knife, guys. This knife right here is great because it's really skinny. So when you cut through a watermelon, it doesn't get stuck halfway. And then because this knife is tempered in a way where it's super, super flexible, you can actually fillet the melon right off the rind. There's a video online, by the way, guys, called the Jason Jeffrey Thin Slicer video. YouTube it, Thin Slicer, Jason Jeffrey. Screen grab it on your phone, show it to your customers. Everybody will want to buy a salmon knife from you, I promise. Now, the next one, Mrs. Jones, if you're in person, hand them the meat cleaver if you can. The next person, Mrs. Jones, is what we call the attitude adjuster. So if your husband ever gets out of line, you can use this one on him. Ha 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 ha. No, but in all seriousness, Mrs. Jones, this isn't a tool you'll use necessarily every day. But when you are cutting through something really big, like a bigger frozen piece of meat or like something with a bone in it, like you can literally cut through a frozen tube of ground beef with the cleaver, Mrs. Jones. If you flip over the ground beef, it literally has notches on what you should be able to cut with a meat cleaver. Now, this knife is, again, there just in case. It's the bad boy of the set, not something you use every day. Now, a lot of people see this one right next to it, the vegetable knife. If you're in person, hand it to them because it's very much a lot lighter. So people are like, oh, that's really lightweight. This one looks almost identical, Mrs. Jones, but it's almost a third of the weight. So it's cool. If you guys ever occasionally cut through the occasional like sweet potato or squash or root vegetable from time to time, oh yeah, I totally do. So what's great about this one is you get 2 points for leverage. So you can actually use 2 hands to push through a squash or a sweet potato, so it's much easier to hold on to, right? So what's great about this set, Mrs. Jones, those are a couple of the highlights and the reason why people like the complete set. Again, you're not going to necessarily use every single knife every single day. It's just nice to have. Now, the basic set, Mrs. Jones, the basic set, we like to call this our meat and potato set. Nothing crazy gourmet about it. It's a great starter set. It's great for people that don't have a very big budget for a set of knives. And you can always get this set and upgrade into the complete set later. But it gets you a paring knife, a couple utility knives, a chef knife, a bread knife, and a carving set. So it's your pretty plain Jane set. Now the family set's great. It's kind of the in-betweener is what I like to call it, Mrs. Jones. It's for people that kind of want this but don't quite have the budget for the complete set. So with this one, it's got a couple of the highlights that the complete set has. So it has like our non-stick utility cheese knife. It's got our small chopper. And then it's also got our small barbecue knife for cutting through like a rack of ribs or like a pepperoni or a salami. And then it still comes with our scissors. And the scissors are cool too because they come apart. They're easy to clean. They fit righties and lefties. You can cut through paper, plastic, cardboard. You can also cut through like disjointing of a chicken, all those things as well. So for you guys, if you guys had to pick kind of one of those 3 sets that would be the best fit for your guys' family, which size set do you think would be the best? Okay, and that's it. You stop there. We haven't talked about prices. We haven't talked about price comparison yet, right? But what did we do there? What we did there was we created want in what set? You guessed it, the complete set. So guess what? A lot of people actually pick. Out of all 3 sets, we haven't asked them for the order. We haven't asked them what the price, told them price yet or anything. We're just saying, hey, which set would you guys want? Which set would you guys think would fit your guys' family's needs? A lot of people pick this because we talked about this one the most, right? Now, what's great about it is if a person picks this, by the way, the homemaker guys, it's like, cool, awesome. So let me show you what comes in this, okay? And here's how you explain a homemaker in a minute, guys. I got 3 minutes before I got to bounce. Okay, here's how you explain a homemaker in a minute. So with this set, Mrs. Jones, you get a small everyday paring knife, you get a utility knife, you get this one, which is super cool, the spreader. You can cut a tomato, spread the mayo. You can actually cut the sandwich. You can also do avocados. It's super, super flexible. So you can do avocados, bagels, cream cheese. You can also do like lasagna, brownies, quiches. It's amazing. You get a small carving set. This one, Mrs. Jones, the turning fork. This one's great to get your husband out of bed. No, I'm just kidding. This one's really good for shredded chicken and shredded pork. It's also great for tall jars of pickles, olives, and cherries. You get an everyday vegetable knife. You get a bread knife. Now, this one looks really scary, Mrs. Jones, when you hold it, though. It's very lightweight, so if you guys ever cut through the occasional like watermelon or bigger piece of meat, this is a bigger knife that's kind of going to protect everything else in the set. And then you also get what we call as our master barbecue set, which is great for your briskets, hams, turkeys, roast beefs, especially around the holidays. And then you get 8 of these little butter steak knives. That took me 50 seconds. That's how you explain a homemaker. Is that crazy? No. People do not buy homemakers, guys, because like, oh, I'm going to use everything. Same thing with Ultimates. They use it. They're going to pick it because they're like, cool, that fits my lifestyle. Okay. So again, guys, if you don't create want in the Ultimate by talking sexy about the pieces that are in it, it's going to be very difficult to actually sell Ultimates because of that. Because if they don't have want, when you eventually show them the price, it's very difficult for them to justify the price if they don't have want. So what's crazy about the whole creating want thing, guys, is when you show the price, instead of being like, oh my God, I could never spend $3,000 on a set of knives. How could I ever? Right? All of a sudden now their mindset is like, that's $3,000, but that has this, 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 and this in it. Just like the iPhone. Oh, that's got Siri. It's got Google Maps. It's got super fast Wi-Fi calling. It's got super fast voice to text, whatever. All of the gets and gadgets about an iPhone, it's the same thing. You're like, oh, I'm justifying that $1,000 phone because it's got all these things that I would use. It's the same thing with an Ultimate, right? Framing in all of the things you need to say about, yes, it's the biggest, it's the best, it's the set everybody wants, but not necessarily the set everybody can afford, but it's what everybody works towards, right? And just framing properly about how it's the biggest and the best, but it's a full tool chest, right? You're not going to use every tool every day. It's just good to have it. And then, of course, talking about the pieces that are actually in it to create that want, right? You don't have to be super crazy gourmet about it. It's just touching on those highlights, creating a want. So they pick the bigger set. And if you got to drop down, guys, again, the signature, talk the crap out of the Hardy slicer, talk the crap out of the cheese knife, cut a potato with the cheese knife, get them excited about it, right? And as you guys get better at this, you're going to feel more confident in closing bigger and bigger orders. So think about what you want, right? If you're not selling enough signatures and homemaker, or excuse me, signatures and complete sets, Is it because you're just a little too scared to sell them? Or is it because you just haven't got outside your comfort zone to talk about the pieces in it? Because the pieces in it, guys, are truly the best pieces that Cuckle makes and the most practical.